The Pz.35, a Czech-built workhorse in German uniform. The Panzerkampfwagen 35T, better known by its abbreviated designation Pz.35T, is a unique chapter in the story of World War II armored warfare. Unlike many German tanks of the era that were products of domestic engineering, the Pz.35T was originally a Czechoslovak creation, a light tank designed not for the Third Reich, but for the defense of democratic Czechoslovakia in the interwar period. Its journey from Czech manufacturer to German battlefield staple illustrates the complex political and military transformations that shaped Europe in the 1930s and 40s. The origins of the LT-VZ-35. Before it bore a German cross, the tank was known as the Lecký tank Vzor 35, literally the light tank model 1935. Designed and built by two major Czech manufacturers, CKD and Skoda Works, the tank entered production in the mid-1930s to equip the rapidly modernizing Czechoslovak army. The LT-VZ-35 was a relatively advanced light tank for its time. It weighed about 10.5 tons and featured riveted armor up to 25 millimeters thick, which was standard for light tanks of that era. It was armed with a 3.7 centimeter Skoda A3 cannon and two 7.92 millimeter ZB VZ-35 machine guns, giving it adequate firepower against enemy infantry and light vehicles. The vehicle housed a four-man crew, commander, gunner, loader, and driver. Mechanically, it utilized a leaf spring suspension system that was somewhat over-engineered, resulting in smooth rides but complex maintenance. By the late 1930s, around 300 LT-VZ-35s had been produced and deployed within the Czech army. They formed a key component of Czechoslovakia's armored strength during a time of mounting regional tension. However, the tank's destiny changed dramatically in 1938. In March 1939, following the Munich Agreement and the breakup of Czechoslovakia, Nazi Germany invaded and occupied the Czech lands, establishing the Protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia. As part of the occupation, Germany inherited an entire stockpile of Czech military equipment, including the entire fleet of LT-VZ-35 tanks. Rather than discarding or scrapping the tanks, the Wehrmacht, short on armored vehicles during the early stages of the war, opted to integrate the Czech tanks into its own military structure. The LT-VZ-35 was redesignated as the Panzerkampfwagen 35T, with the T indicating Tschechisch, or German for Czech. The tanks were repainted, recrewed, and quickly incorporated into German panzer divisions, especially the 2nd and 3rd Panzer Divisions. The Pz-35T played a significant role in the early German Blitzkrieg campaigns. It first saw combat in the invasion of Poland in 1939, where its mobility and light armor made it well suited for rapid advances and exploitation tactics. Despite facing a largely outdated Polish armored force, the Pz-35T performed adequately, showing the value of its 37mm gun and relatively modern design. The tank saw further use in the Battle of France in 1940, where it again served in a reconnaissance and support role. It was outclassed by better armored French tanks, such as the Char B-1 and Samuel S-35, but Germany's superior tactics and air support minimized its vulnerabilities. In 1941, the Pz-35T was also deployed in the Balkans campaign, where the lack of significant enemy armor allowed it to function effectively. The Pz-35T's limitations became glaringly apparent during Operation Barbarossa, the German invasion of the Soviet Union in June 1941. Soviet tanks like the T-34 and KV-1 rendered the 37mm gun of the Pz-35T nearly useless. Even worse, the harsh Russian climate and terrain proved disastrous for the tank's maintenance-heavy suspension system. The Pz-35T, never designed for the rigors of the Eastern Front, began to break down in large numbers. By late 1941 and into 1942, the German army began to phase out the Pz-35T from frontline service. It was withdrawn from most panzer divisions and either scrapped, cannibalized for parts or reassigned to secondary roles such as training, occupation duty, or internal security. Some units were transferred to Axis allies, including Slovakia and Romania. While the Pz.35T was ultimately a stopgap measure, it played a valuable role during a critical period when Germany lacked sufficient numbers of domestically produced tanks. The Wehrmacht's ability to repurpose captured equipment like the Pz.35T reflects the flexibility and desperation of its early war logistics. Mechanically complex and increasingly obsolete as the war progressed, the Pz.35T was never destined to be a long-term solution. However, it remains historically significant as an example of how industrial conquest could translate into battlefield gains. For Czechoslovakia, the tank is a reminder of its once advanced arms industry, while for Germany, it was a stepping stone in the evolution of its armored doctrine. Today, a few surviving examples of the Pz.35T can be seen in military museums, such as the Lesany Military Museum in the Czech Republic. These preserved relics stand as physical testimonies to the tank's complex origins and wartime journey.